Hello, RoahmMythril here once again, and yeah, you can probably tell from the video title, black screen, and voice tone, things aren't good. The short version, on Tuesday night, my mum passed away. It's been kind of a long chain of events, which toward the end, as much as I wished it wasn't the case, I kinda saw this coming. I've talked about all this through various updates over on Twitter and Tumblr, but I thought I should cover it here as well. So this whole thing, it painfully, ironically started soon after Mother's Day. To set the scene, we'd just had a really big thunderstorm go through, and it messed up the power grid in the area pretty badly. It knocked out power to, I think they said, 50,000 customers. The outage was long, and it messed up my sleep schedule and triggered one of my bouts of insomnia, meaning I was up later/earlier than usual. This means I was up at the point that my mum got up, so I talked with her a bit, and she started her usual routine of feeding the pets. Everything was normal until she went out to her shop, and then from what I was told, she just kinda collapsed out there, her legs stiff and throbbing, and she threw up. So she had to be rushed to the hospital, and I had to stay home to watch things and listen for the phone. So it was one of those, I know I won't be getting any sleep now situations. I was just way too worried about Mum. After they got her settled in a room, my uncle called home and said they found it was a blood clot in her leg. They put her on blood thinners and were going to keep her overnight for observation. In that time, however, they did some scans and called us the next morning with the news that she had some sort of nodules on her liver and one lung that could be cancer. She was discharged, however, so we brought her home. We basically settled into a routine. My uncle took over the morning pet feedings, I did the evening feedings. At night I'd help my mum back to her room, get her settled in for the night. She had tests scheduled to start figuring out what was going on and what course of treatment to take. However, it was one of those one hand doesn't know what the other is doing things with the doctors. They scheduled one date for her to go in for a biopsy, but then they called us and said we needed to set an appointment, and told us that one actually was not scheduled somehow. She also went in for a visit with her normal doctor to try to get a prescription for pain meds, and they then wanted her to get an ultrasound on her liver, which she did, and they just reported back what we already knew from the earlier scans, that yes, there were growths on her liver. In the midst of all this, things just kept seeming to get worse for her. She was experiencing more pain in her legs, just walking back to her room was super draining for her, and she was having a lot of acid indigestion, throwing up a lot. Things came to a head last Tuesday. She had gone into the bathroom, and she was having trouble getting things going, so to speak. She'd been in there for around 3 hours. My uncle and I were getting worried because all we kept hearing was what sounded like groans of pain. We'd both thought that she'd gotten sick again in there. She explained it once she finally got out. She'd said her abdominal muscles felt sore from throwing up so much, and it made her too weak to really do what she needed to do. But then things got even worse the following morning. I was woken up because they had to rush to the hospital again. She'd had an episode where half her body felt tingly and numb, unresponsive. I kinda knew what it was, and my uncle confirmed it when he got back. She'd had a minor stroke. However, she was getting her range of motion back, talking, lively. She seemed to be doing okay. The next day, Thursday, they wanted to do a minor surgery. I think it was a stent they called it. It was something to help her kidney function better. They said it was a super quick, easy surgery, like 5 minutes tops. That night, we went up to visit her, and she seemed better than she had been in quite a while. She was laughing, there was a light in her eyes. They'd given her a full meal tray and she'd kept it down. Things were looking great. I told her how much I loved her when it was time for my uncle and I to leave, and she said it back, and I'm so glad I had that moment. On Friday, we'd gotten called by the hospital, and things were still looking good. They said that she was looking good enough to discharge over the weekend, so everything was looking great. And then on Saturday morning, everything went really bad, really fast. We got called with the news that she'd had a major stroke. She was fully paralyzed on one side and could no longer talk. Immediately after that call, we got one from a doctor in New York. I guess he'd been the one reviewing the scans. He said, "You knew about the cancer, right?" We told him that we'd only been told that she had small early-stage nodules in 2 spots. He said no, it was definitely cancer, late stage, and had spread to many of her systems. The whole time, my uncle and I just felt like we'd somehow not been told something. It didn't seem like it should have spread and developed that fast. This, though, was what he said was causing the blood clots and the strokes, and that they would just keep happening and getting worse. In the end, it was said that at best she had 4, maybe 5 months left, and that was if she was just kept in the hospital hooked up to machines. We knew her and knew that wasn't an existence she would have wanted. The only other option was to put her in hospice care to make her comfortable for what time she had left. They moved her there on Monday night and called us, telling us that her blood pressure was so low the machines weren't even picking it up, and her skin had started to change color. I think that night I'd kind of prepared myself. I mean, with news like that, I guess I kind of knew it was coming. Tuesday morning, however, my uncle called them, and they said her blood pressure had improved, as had her color. We went to visit her. She was just completely unresponsive the whole time, but we stayed for a couple of hours. I think we both deep down just kind of knew we were there to say our final goodbyes. I have no idea she heard it, but I told her one more time how much I loved her. And then, that night, they called us with the news that she had passed away. The past few days have had that surreal quality of just knowing this is what I have to accept as normal now. All I can really do is console myself that I got to have that one last good visit with her, tell her how important she was to me, and just knowing that she's not suffering anymore. She's not a prisoner in her own body anymore. It's really the best you can do in such a situation, I suppose. We found a box in her room marked what to do when I'm gone. Thankfully, she did make her own arrangements for her funeral. We talked to the people we needed to contact, and from what I understand, the service will be next Monday. She also left final letters for each of us, that was a bit of an emotional punch, but I'll always treasure that letter. At this point, it's just kind of taking things a day at a time as we try to pick up the pieces. At this point, there are only 3 of us left here, me, my uncle, and my cousin. It's hard to look back and realize that in the time I've been running my channel, the population of this house has dropped by half, but such is the way of things. After all, I'm closing in on 40 myself, so, of course, no one lives forever. It's just been a lot of that in relatively quick succession. On the subject of the channel, I do still intend to get back to work on things, and I hope to do so relatively soon. I'm probably still going to be on hiatus until after the service, of course, but I'm hoping to try to get back to work soon after that. Now, I know a lot of you will say for me to take all the time I need, that the channel's not important right now, that family comes first, and for all that, I am deeply appreciative. The thing is, I just kind of want to try to get back to as normal as I can. Distraction's always kind of been my coping mechanism, so getting back to working on projects, interacting with fans and viewers, I think that will be a good thing. There is admittedly also another reason I want to get back to work, and that is, I want to feel like I'm at least doing something to earn the support that I've received, especially from my supporters and backers on Patreon, and those who send in PayPal donations. As much as I absolutely hate how things so often come down to finances, that is something we do have to worry about. It's that extra little sucker punch you have to deal with in losing a loved one, is bills, debts, they won't just pause and say, you take all the time you need in your moment of loss. They just say, yeah, sorry about that, now give me the money. With Mum's passing, we're down to only 2 sources of income, as she won't be able to help us with her Social Security anymore. At this point, it's down to just what the gun shop brings in, and what I can bring in via Patreon and donations through my site. that's really all we have right now. I always feel awkward asking for funds. Like, if I'm able, I'll advertise charity events. I'm honored to do so. But when it comes to trying to ask for money for myself, I always feel weird about it. Unfortunately, situations demand. So I would like to ask, if you want to help support me in what I do and support my family in a time of need, please consider either donating through PayPal on my main site or supporting me on Patreon. I'll have links to both in the video info, and any help is greatly appreciated. Now, all that said, on a lighter note with video stuff, I do at least have all the level grinding I was trying to do for Pokemon Yellow done, and I have a really stupid idea that I want to try, so at least hopefully that will be fun and enjoyable once I get back to that. I think essentially that's all I really had to cover. As always, I want to thank all my friends, my fans, my viewers. You guys have all been great. People have been sending me various gaming questions over on my social media to help keep me distracted, and I have greatly appreciated it, as well as all the well wishes everyone has sent. I am eternally grateful to have as amazing a fan base as I have. Thank you so much for your continued support, and I shall hopefully see you soon once we get back to normal video progress. Until then, fare thee well.